Chapter 106. The Sound. Behind the door. Chen Ge's hand froze in midair. The creepiest thing was that the door in the mirror was open at the exact same angle as in real life. Chen Ge removed the black cloth and walked to the cubicle. He turned to look at the mirror while he reached out to push the door open completely. There was nothing inside the cubicle in reality, but it was different in the mirror. The narrow cubicle was painted red, like blood was seeping out from the ceiling, walls, and floor. It was a different world. Chen Ge still did not have the courage to step into the cubicle. Holding the doorknob, he wondered if he should just have the cubicle destroyed. About 10 seconds later, Chen Ge heard a weird sound that seemed very close but also far away. It felt like someone wearing wet clothes was crawling on the floor. Where is that coming from? The sound became clearer, as if it was getting close to Chen Ge. He walked out of the bathroom to peer down the corridor and then turned to look at the mirror. Finally, he confirmed that the sound was coming from inside the cubicle. Something is coming? Chen Ge knew that it was not the time to be curious. He yanked the cubicle door shut and used the nearby mop to block it before turning to look at the mirror. The sound of something heavy being dragged entered the cubicle, and soon a pool of red bled out from underneath the door. The other thing felt like it was looking for something, and the air was heavy with the smell of blood. After several seconds, the sound moved away, and the unique smell dissipated. With his back against the wall, Chen Ge's palms were very sweaty. If he had not woken up, the thing that was crawling on the ground would have escaped, just like the mirror monster. Even with the black cloth over the mirror, the blood-red door still appears on time. Chen Ge was clueless about the world behind the cubicle door, so the only thing he could do was forget about it for now. After splashing his face with cold water, Chen Ge returned to the staff break room. When he opened the door, he realized that Xiao had disappeared again. Did she come earlier to remind me? Chen Ge sat on the side of his bed. Since he could not sleep, he took out the black phone. After he swiped on the screen, he clicked on the tab for the daily missions. Easy mission. A normal haunted house experience should not create permanent trauma to its visitors. I hope you understand this simple theory. Please improve the haunted house's security by inspecting the security threats hidden around the haunted house. Normal mission. A single hand cannot clap. A good haunted house needs a good management team. Recruit more talents. They will definitely help when the situation demands it. Nightmare mission. There has always been a second occupant inside your room. Wouldn't you like to meet said person? Chen Ge was familiar with the newly updated daily missions. He had seen them before. The easy and normal missions are things that I should be doing at the current stage, more help around the place and improve security. However, in comparison, the reward of the nightmare mission is far more alluring. Without risk, there would be no reward. But the key thing was, after hiring the pen spirit, he had a fortune-telling chance every day. The way Chen Ge saw it, using it on the nightmare mission was the best use of the pen spirit's power. Holding the ballpoint pen that was taped together, Chen Ge felt embarrassed. When there's a chance, I should ask her if she wants to move to a newer pen. He grabbed a random piece of paper and placed it on the table. After invoking the pen spirit, Chen Ge asked the question that was bothering him. Can I finish the latest nightmare mission on the black phone safely? After that, Chen Ge looked at the paper for a long time. The pen shook, but there was no answer. Is the question that difficult? Chen Ge realized the pen spirit was not as powerful as he had thought. She could not answer anything related to the black phone. Looking at the ballpoint pen that had started to break, Chen Ge quickly changed his question. That question doesn't count. I want to know, has there been another person living in this room? The ballpoint pen hovered for a long time before writing, yes. Then, do you know what he looks like? This time, the pen spirit did not answer. The ballpoint pen in his palm had returned to normal. Chen Ge did not blame the pen spirit, since fortune-telling was probably extremely exhausting for the pen spirit, which was probably why the limitation of 1 per day was in place. So there is another person living here. How have I not noticed all this time? Based on the mission introduction, the person is another friend from the other side. There were quite a few supernatural tenants living in Chen Ge's haunted house. He did not mind any more weird spirits as long as it did not actively harm his business, like the mirror ghost. After some hesitation, Chen Ge chose to accept the nightmare mission. Are you sure you want to accept the nightmare mission? Unforeseeable consequences might occur. Yes. The screen flickered, and a new message appeared. It stays in the same room as you. After you fall asleep, it will appear. If it is kind, it will wash away the negative energy and keep the household safe and healthy. If it is malicious, when you are asleep, it will stand beside your bed, thinking about how to ruin you. The game is called The Invisible Customer. At midnight, spread soaked uncooked rice around the house, place a pair of worn slippers outside the door, and light a white candle on the bedroom floor. Arrange the bed in such a way that it looks like someone is really asleep in bed. You will lie underneath the bed. For the mission to work, you have to really fall asleep. If you manage to catch a glimpse of its face, then mission will be successful. This mission will be your third nightmare mission. After completing the mission, you will randomly get a scenario's trial mission. Warning: after completing the third nightmare mission, the nightmare missions given for daily mission will be randomized, so please treat each nightmare mission carefully. Chen Ge memorized all the mission details quickly. Why must I fall asleep for the mission? How will I take a look at the person's face if I'm asleep? In my dreams? Chen Ge did not understand the meaning of this mission, but since he had accepted it, he could only follow the instructions. After putting on his jacket, Chen Ge once more visited the park canteen late at night to borrow half a bowl of white rice. The haunted house is so big, it'll be such a waste if I have to cover every floor. Chen Ge soaked the rice in cold water and spread it around the few rooms on the first floor. Then he placed a pair of slippers at the corridor entrance and lit a white candle beside his bed. Chapter 107. Invisible Customer. After that, Chen Ge found the doll that had been left behind by his parents and the Dr. Skullcracker's hammer and placed them beside his bed. Now, everything is ready. After switching off the light, Chen Ge attached his phone to the charger and left it on the bedside table to record. He then crawled underneath the bed with the scary-looking hammer. The flickering candlelight caused the brightness inside the room to fluctuate. Once Chen Ge closed his eyes, his brain was immediately filled with many scary thoughts. He could not control it. He kept his attention on his surrounding as he curled into the fetal position, the top of his head touching the corner of the bed. From his vantage point, he could see the slippers in the corridor through the half-open door. The slippers are where they were, and the white rice has remained unmoved. I wonder why the black phone asked me to prepare these things. The candle burned shorter, and Chen Ge's eyelids grew heavier. Night spread through the haunted house, and Chen Ge, who had not really rested for the past few days, held on for a little longer before drifting off to sleep. His lower calf was a bit cold. Chen Ge opened his eyes blurrily. The candle had gone out, and the room was dark and quiet. What time is it? Chen Ge wanted to glance at his watch, but he realized he could not move. Sleep, paralysis. 1. After widening his eyes, Chen Ge did not make too much resistance. He focused on adjusting his breathing. Respiratory organs like lungs were not affected by sleep paralysis. Then he focused his energy on trying to bend his finger. Throughout the process, he did not look elsewhere, but on his finger. After all, even if there was something scary, he would have been unable to move. It would only add to his fear and cause him to lose his cool. After 3 minutes, Chen Ge could finally move his pinky. This was a good start. He tried to move on to the next stage, but as his eyes swept past the open door, a question bubbled up in his mind. When I placed the slippers earlier, did the head of slippers face inward or outward? Since he would need to wear the slippers when going out, the slippers should have been facing outward, but the slippers that Chen Ge saw were pointing into his bedroom. Did I misplace them earlier? A bad feeling settled in his stomach, and he tried his best to move his other fingers. The candle in the room had long been extinguished. There was a shuffling sound, like someone was moving the rice that was placed around the floor. Under Chen Ge's scrutiny, one of the slippers moved forward. It was an awkward movement, like someone learning how to walk for the first time. It moved. The more anxious Chen Ge became, the slower he progressed. After making the first step, the slippers placed on the corridor suddenly moved forward several steps like someone was putting them on. The invisible customer is already here? Why can't I see him? Just as Chen Ge was thinking, the pair of slippers had reached the door to the main control room. It suddenly stopped, and then the door to the control room fell open on its own before soon closing. The windows inside the haunted house were shut, so it could not have been the wind. What is it looking for? The pair of slippers moved up and down the dark corridor before it stopped at the door to the dressing room. From Chen Ge's angle, he could see that the black cloth over the mirror in the dressing room had been taken down, and the skin mask made from multiple faces swayed before the mirror. Chen Ge was alarmed watching this. He tried to move his fingers, but at that moment, the moving skin mask suddenly stopped, and the hollow behind the pair of eyes seemed to be staring at Chen Ge's hiding place. "I've been discovered!" The mask fell to the floor, and the door to the dressing room was closed. The pair of slippers stopped in front of the door before it turned toward Chen Ge and headed quick for the staff break room. Hiding under the bed with his body immobile, Chen Ge could only watch as the pair of slippers moved closer to him. The door to the break room was pushed open further, and the pair of slippers stopped beside the bed. Chen Ge closed his eyes and pretended that he was asleep. He could feel a cold draft on his face and a light breathing beside his ear, as if a face was looking closely down at him. The monster is checking whether I'm really asleep or not. Chen Ge did not dare open his eyes. He was afraid of seeing something that might make him lose control. His movement was stopped, so the best solution then was to pretend to be asleep. Several seconds later, the chilling breathing sound disappeared. Chen Ge pushed his eyes open a sliver. There was nothing before him. He moved his eyes around and saw that the pair of slippers was placed beside the bed. However, the direction was different from before. Now they were facing out. "It has jumped onto my bed?" Just the thought of it made Chen Ge shiver. Every time he had been asleep, this thing had been wandering about the house. If the person had malicious intentions, the consequences would have been unbearable. The slippers remained unmoved for a long time. The monster was likely lying in his bed. Chen Ge realized that his chance had arrived. He directed all his energy to the one finger he could move. His pupils darted about and tried to unfreeze the rest of the body from immobility. Completing the nightmare mission was no longer that important. The feeling that his body was out of his control was horrible. After completing so many of the Black Phone's missions, Chen Ge's focus and concentration were better than most. After some time, the rest of his fingers could all move. Curling his palm into a fist, his control of his arm also slowly returned. Just a little more, a little bit more. The muscles on his arms bulged. Chen Ge had a feeling that he could wake up soon. His breathing smoothed out, and he could now turn his neck slightly. If only his legs could move, then he would have regained full control of his body. With the hammer in hand, he would be less defenseless. However, his lower body was completely unresponsive. He nudged his body, trying to turn onto his side. His heartbeat reverberated in his ears. Using every ounce of energy in his body, he finally managed to turn his body toward the wall. In that instant, he felt the shackles on his body unlock. Chen Ge gained full control of his body back, but as he turned to look behind him, his skin became covered in goosebumps. There was a girl lying behind him. "The monster didn't get onto the bed. It has been behind me all along." Chen Ge involuntarily reached for the hammer beside him, and the girl lying behind him also realized that Chen Ge had woken up from the sleep paralysis. Her reaction was one beat slower. She raised her head to share a look with Chen Ge before morphing into a shadow in a hurry and rushing out of the room. Chen Ge grabbed the hammer and chased after her. When he saw the girl's face, he had felt that she looked weirdly familiar.